What is up, everybody? Matt Moda here to give you my favorite NFL player prop picks. We're talking Monday Night Football, Lions versus 49ers. I'm going to have 3 NFL player prop picks for you guys to lock in for this NFL Monday slate. Of course, all 3 of which are plus money bangers because that is how we do things here. I'm recording this before all the games have finished on Sunday, so I don't have a full Week 16 or Week 17 recap for you guys as of right now. So far, the week is going pretty well. Saturday, yesterday didn't go that great. Thursday, we basically broke even. Christmas was really good, and so far so good on Sunday. Just waiting for a couple of these games to finish. So the results you see on the screen here, not going to be fully updated for Week 17, but still very, very good. Still very, very happy with how things are going so far this season. Obviously, so far the season's almost over. Up over 37 units on the year. Up over 19% ROI as well. Very, very good how things are going. And let's hope that continues tonight. So we are going, or I guess I should say Monday night, depending on when you're watching this. So again, 3 plays, all in this Lions versus 49ers game. Let's get into it. Play number 1. Joan Jennings, 70+ receiving yards, plus 110 odds at DraftKings. You guys know the drill with this one. This is one of my favorite fade recent results type of plays. I absolutely love this one as a positive regression type of play. Jennings has been very, very quiet recently. Now, he had a stretch. Basically, when Brandon Ayuk first got hurt, and for the next couple games after that, he had a stretch where any game where one of Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel missed a game, because Deebo missed some time at the beginning of the year, Joan Jennings was incredible. Since then, not so much. But he had games at the beginning of the year when, again, one of those 2 were missing. Over 100 yards. I mean, he had like 170 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Rams. That was week 3. Another game with 88 yards, 93 yards, 91 yards. Some really, really good games. Now he's missed this in 4 of his last 5 starts. Now, 4 of his last 5 missing it does sound pretty gross. A lot of that can be explained away to make it not seem quite as bad. One game, Brock Purdy missed. You really can't fault a starting receiver for having a bad game in which their starting quarterback misses. A backup quarterback really wasn't that great in that game, mostly targeted George Kittle. Another game was in a blizzard that was the Bills game. Windy blizzard. No passing was really done at all in that game. Another game was in a torrential downpour against the Rams, where Matthew Stafford didn't really do anything in that game as well. So the reality is, he's missed it in 4 of his last 5. Only 1 actual real game was in which he went under, which was bad, which was last week against the Dolphins. And he still had 51 yards in that game, so it wasn't like he was terrible. But at the beginning of the year, as I mentioned, he was absolutely on fire. He was automatic when one of those 2 guys was missing, Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. And I think that's going to swing back in his favor in this game against the Lions. The Lions are a beautiful, beautiful matchup when you want to target passing props. They are the perfect combination of a really good offense, so they're always scoring. Teams are always needing to throw against them. And then when you look at their defense, they're a pass funnel team that you absolutely cannot run on, but that will give it up in the pass. It's kind of an interesting philosophy by the Lions because they're always winning, so teams are always needing to throw against them. But the way they play defense is to just not let you run on them, and they are a pass funnel. And to give you guys some context to that, on the entire season, the Lions have given up, number 1, the most receiving yards per game to wide receivers, on the most receptions as well. Literally number 1 in terms of receiving yards and receptions allowed to wide receivers. In the style of defense, this for the Lions has been the case for like 2 years now, so it's not anything new. Their defense is also incredibly banged up. A ton has been made about how banged up their defense is, which has made their defense just worse in general, which obviously should help us in this situation. And you just go through the game logs. I mean, wide receivers have absolutely smoked the Lions this entire season. It started week 1 when it was Cooper Kupp. It happened last week against against the Bears, when literally all 3, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore, all 3 of those wide receivers hit their yard prop over against the Lions. Prior to that, Christian Watson went off for over 100 yards against them. And again, you just go through the game logs. Wide receivers are having big games against the Lions. Let's hope Joan Jennings is just the next chapter in that. That's play number 1. Next up, play number 2, we're going to go with Brock Purdy, 25+ rushing yards, plus 115 odds at ESPN Bet. This is a system play here. Admittedly, a system that I've discovered too late, but it is a system play. QBs that can run take their rushing prop over against the Lions. I'm not talking about like it has to be Lamar Jackson. Just a quarterback that can scoot will have success running the ball against the Lions. And there are 2 reasons for this. Number 1, they play a ton of man coverage. But they almost never spy the quarterback. So man coverage generally leads to quarterbacks being able to run because defenders are following a man and not keeping their eye on the quarterback, which means that quarterbacks are able to run against them unless teams have a spy, which is what the Lions don't do. Now, they run man coverage at the highest rate in the year. That number's just gone up as the season has gone on. On the entire season, they've played man coverage 44% of the time. That's number one. You want to look at the data since week 7, 47% of the time they're playing man coverage, which is still number one in the NFL. And again, they don't spy the quarterback, so they will allow quarterbacks to run against them. They've allowed the third most rushing yards to quarterbacks in the entire NFL. But you have to look at more than that because a lot of that is dependent on your matchups. Like if you're not playing running quarterbacks, then you're not going to have a lot of running stats against you. They have the third most, but every single quarterback that had a rushing prop 20 yards or higher, above 20 and a half, hit their running prop over against the Bears. Every single one. There's about 5 of them. And then only 2 quarterbacks that had a double-digit rushing prop did not hit their over-under, rushing prop against the Lions. That was Mac Jones and CJ Stroud. So like 2 quarterbacks that don't run a lot. And Brock Purdy, I'm not going to tell you that he is Lamar Jackson, but he can run. He is absolutely someone that can scramble. And just look through these game logs against the Lions. I mean, all these quarterbacks had a decently high over-under against them. All hit their over against the Lions. Baker Mayfield, 34 rushing yards. Kyler Murray had 45. Geno Smith, 38. Sam Darnold, 39. Anthony Richardson, 61. Caleb Williams, 39. Josh Allen had 68. His over-under was like 49.5. And Caleb Williams, again last week, had 34. His over-under was 27.5. Now, again, Purdy's not going to remind anybody of Lamar Jackson, but he's hit 25 or more rushing yards in 5 of his last 10 games. He averages about 22 rushing yards per game, so we're betting on him to go a little bit above his average, which I'm okay with when you consider the matchup. And I also like this as a somewhat of a positive regression. Now, we did hit this last week, but he had missed it in 3 straight games prior to that. And then prior to those 3 straight games he missed, he had cashed it in 4 of 6 games. So it's kind of just the cyclical nature of the NFL. But I absolutely love this one. Brock Purdy, Brock Purdy going to hit his rushing prop against the Lions. That's play number 2. And then our third and final pick of the video. You probably guessed it. We're going Jahmyr Gibbs, 100 plus rushing yards, plus 120 odds. Plus 120 odds at ESPN Bet. I was on Gibbs rushing last week. I see no reason why to not go right back to it against the 49ers. You know, the 49ers, I mean, they went to the Super Bowl last year. They're not even going to make the playoffs this year. They have dealt with a lot of injuries, but part of the issues that the 49ers have had this year has been their run defense has really, really shut down the last couple weeks. It's been bad all year. It's been really bad recently. 5 of the last 6 starting running backs against the against the 49ers. I'm just messing up teams. 5 of the last 6 starting running backs against the 49ers have hit their rushing prop over. A lot of them have smoked their over as well. The only one that missed was DeAndre Swift. I don't really count the Bears as a real team. I mean, they're a complete joke, especially DeAndre Swift in their running game, especially in that game. I think they scored 6 points against the 49ers. Just a bad game. But last week, Devon Achane had 120 yards against the 49ers. His over-under was 47.5. The week before that, Kyren Williams had 108 rushing yards. His over-under was 72.5. Before that, James Cook had 107 yards on an over-under of 63.5. Josh Jacobs had 106 yards on an over-under of 70.5. The only running back that hit their over that I didn't mention was Ken Walker, who barely hit his over, but he still hit the over. Since week 10, the 49ers have allowed the 5th most rushing yards per game in the entire NFL. A lot of their advanced metrics also don't look good. They have the most missed tackles per attempt in the NFL as well. So they've missed the most tackles per attempt and just overall. And by a wide margin too. They've missed like 20 more tackles than the next closest team. And I was surprised to see this. They are admittedly decent at yards after contact. So despite the fact that they miss a lot of tackles, their yards after contact isn't terrible. But they do allow the 9th most yards before contact. So that's not great. And stopping the run, not being able to stop the run against the Lions is not great, is what you would call a death sentence. The Lions, one of the best rushing teams in the NFL, 6th best rush grade in the NFL according to DVOA. They have the 5th best adjusted yards before carry per fantasy points per DVOA. They have the best adjusted line yards in the NFL. They just are. Their offensive line is responsible for the most yards. So very good offensive line, excellent running team. And Jahmyr Gibbs, you know, he had been splitting work with David Montgomery. Monty's out for this game. He's out for the year. Last week was the first game this season without Monty. He had 109 yards, so he would have cashed this over for us. But more importantly, he had 23 carries. If he gets another 20 plus carries in this one, I would be shocked if he doesn't also get to 100 yards, cashing this bad boy out for us. And that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the links in the description of this video in the pinned comment if you want to support the channel. Check those out. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for watching. Let's have a good Monday night and have a good one.